Well, they say he's not coming back, and nothing can fill the void, but at least we can try. With food, I'll make some apple pie. Come on in, it's Dead Dad's Kitchen.
My name's Irene Walton. You are watching Dead Dad's Kitchen. Bad name, I'd say. Just want to preface kind of the whole series. My dad died a few years ago. I've done the whole therapy thing. I've done work. I'm doing fine, clearly. Not the way you need to grieve. It's not the way anybody needs to grieve. This is gonna be half love letter to my dad, half hey, we could make your recipes a little bit better. And I wanna be able to share those recipes with you. We're gonna do that. We're gonna cook. Today we're gonna be making spaghetti and meatballs, which I'm stoked about because it's my for sure comfort food. It reminds me of my dad. It's very like sweet and reminiscent, but the thing he did that I hated, he's just rolling over in his grave. He used angel hair pasta, which I think is very gross. I can't imagine why I would need to explain it. It gets tangled up, it gets mushy, it's yucky. I'm a linguine queenie, so I hate myself. So that's gonna be our one little quick fix to my dad's recipe. We're gonna get right into it. We're gonna start with our marinara sauce because why would you ever buy canned marinara? It's absolutely beyond me. It's so easy to make yourself and it's much more impressive to say like, oh, I made the sauce and like it's pretty good and blah. And it's so easy, you need like 7 ingredients. Maybe I'm not gonna count. I have some chopped garlic, chopped onions, chopped parsley, dried oregano, black pepper, and salt in here for us to just throw in real quick. I have our crushed peeled tomatoes, which I prefer because I think that big chunks of tomato are gross. I don't know how anybody could eat just a fat, hot tomato, but maybe that's your thing. We have some tomato paste as well for a little extra tomato flavor and just like a cheap red wine to add a little bit of depth as well. And we're gonna throw some olive oil in the bottom of the pan and that's your marinara, baby. So we have just like a medium-sized pot with some, I'd say maybe like 1/4 cup of olive oil in it. We're just gonna turn that on a medium high heat, and that's what we're gonna put our garlic and onions into. But I'm gonna show you a little hack for if you don't have a bottle opener. You can take like the bottom of a blunt object. This is also if you're gonna drink all the wine at once, and you're just gonna, and you're just gonna push it in. Okay, hold on. I do this all the time. I look like I killed somebody. Not my dad. We are getting some good ripples in our oil, and that's a pretty easy way to tell if you're ready to throw something in. So again, we're only gonna do about half of this. I'm gonna put my garlic first. Oh, ASMR. And we're gonna do a little more than half of our onions because I like a very oniony base. And we're just gonna give her a little stir. We're just gonna let those cook down for a little bit just to kind of get a little more tender. You want your onions to be see-through. You wanna maybe see a little bit of browning around your garlic's edge. That sounds like a cool movie, Garlic's Edge. This is where I'm gonna throw in my tomato paste because we also want to kind of cook out some of that like very tomatoey concentrated flavor. So we're gonna do a little squirt. I also really like the squirt bottle because it's easier to measure out. Oh, also, I don't measure anything. My dad never measured anything, which I thought was like a very cool, like, oh, you're so Italian. You just know it, it's just in your bones. But really, it's just so lazy. But also when you're cooking, you don't really need to like measure every single thing because it's sort of like whatever you like. If you hate garlic for some god-awful, if you're a vampire, for sure, don't put garlic in. So we are cooking that down. We're just gonna let it go for a bit. We opened our cans. You know how to open a can. I'm not doing that for you. And just plop her in there. This is where our wine's gonna come in handy too. It's not just for a depth of flavor. Let's see how this goes. There we go. And you can kind of just like wring out your can a little bit. Throw her in there. We got a little sauce going. We're gonna make sure all these ingredients are well combined. Take our little seasoning mixture, put that in there too. That looks like it will be good. Let's try her. Oh, for sure need more salt. Just taste as you go also is super important. And that's how you're gonna wanna season everything. Oh, let's add hot red pepper. My dad always used a lot of red pepper, so I'm just gonna kinda like load it in there. But don't you hate that when you're watching a cooking show and they're like, some for the dinner and like some for me? Fool, it's 9 a.m. Get your together. And it's looking real pretty. Little emulsion. It's not the right word. I don't know anything. My dad didn't either though. That was the trick. Is he was like so confident and sometimes I'd be like, where'd you learn this? And he's like, what do you mean? I know. So now that we have all our stuff in, we have our parsley, our spices, our wine, our tomatoes, our tomato paste, everything's cooking away. We're gonna cover her up because she can keep cooking for quite some time. And then we're gonna assemble our meatballs. Bad idea, bad idea, bad idea. Use oven mitts. We're ready to assemble the meatballs, which is what everybody came here to see. We're gonna grab a little knife. Doesn't need to be this gigantic, doesn't need to be a cleaver. I have some ground beef here. I would have preferred if it was 80% lean and 20% fat, but I'm poor and that was not on sale. You wanna get about a pound. This recipe is gonna make probably like 25 good medium-sized meatballs. Hot Italian sausage, I'm gonna do probably about 3/4 of that same volume, so I'll probably use like 3.5 of these. I think, again, you can buy it like already ground up, so you won't have to take it out of these things, but I'm poor and that was not on sale. We're just gonna take our knife and split that down the center. It's gonna take this casing off. It comes off so easily. Looks gross though, for sure, I'd say. Super easy, very fun. Bing, bang, boom. You could do no sausage. You could probably make these vegan if you wanted, but my dad would have yelled at me if I did that. With our 4th sausage, I'm actually just gonna do a half on this one because if you put too much sausage in, it can kind of get a little chewy. Fresh ground black pepper, boom, 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 boom. And then my cute little salt guy that now has pork all over it. Throw some of that in there, perfect. These measurements are kind of just like, sort of eyeball it, whatever you like. This is sort of just a guideline because so much of it is personal preference. You're gonna start mashing this guy up, really get it all incorporated together because once you add all the other stuff, you're not gonna wanna have to worry if these were mixed together properly. Keep your hands clean when you're dealing with any kind of food that's going into anybody else's mouth. We just mixed up our meat really well, just so that there's no worry. We're carefree here at Dead Dad's Kitchen, except for all the issues we have when we meet new men. So now we're gonna add in the reserved garlic and onions from before. You can just toss those in. I always add way too much onion, so I'm gonna do that again. We're gonna do a cursory mix of these just so we're not trying to get everything in all at once because that can be kind of fussy and you end up with like pockets of just meat and pockets of like, wow, there's a lot of onions in here and like that's gross. So now we're gonna put a little well in the center, not for any reason, just because I've seen people do that before, truly. We're gonna take our Italian style breadcrumbs. You could use any breadcrumbs, you could make your own Italian style breadcrumbs. This is just like way easier and this is the way he did it. I'm gonna try to stick to tradition a little bit. We're gonna throw some of these in here. So this is gonna be a binder. That means it's just gonna hold everything together for us. We're also gonna do an egg on top of that. We might end up using a second egg, I'm not sure. Just dependent on how our meat dough comes together. Wow, look at this. I'm honestly crushing it. This looks really good so far. This was the one that we were always so excited for. And again, we were kind of like little poor babies. My mom provided a beautiful home and blah, 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 but we weren't like rolling in the dough. So when we got like a full-on like meat meal, it was a big deal for us. We're gonna throw in a little oregano. Do you remember that episode where Marge gets a new spice rack? And she goes, oregano? Some of these must be doubles. Doesn't this look beautiful? Just a giant mass of meat. You can tell when you break it apart, it all kind of looks the same. And now we're gonna start forming our meatballs. Super easy. Some people like measure it out. I'm not that bitch. But like, you know, it's probably an ounce. It's probably a 4-ounce meatball, 3-ounce meatball. Make a meatball that's this size. Just kind of give it like a little push, just so we know for sure that it's not gonna break apart. And just pop her over onto your cat plate. You do need a cat plate for this recipe, just to keep in mind. It's from a Texas flea market in the middle of Austin. So, good luck. We're also not gonna use that second egg that I had prepared. This is holding together pretty nicely. When you push it, it's gonna keep its shape. We're gonna keep forming those. We're gonna do a little check on this guy. Ooh, pretty. We made all of these meatballs. I should have counted how many there were so I could have a more accurate instruction guide, but they're done. Then we're gonna move on to browning those little tiny babies. The weirdest face I've ever made. Look at her! Just bubbling away like a little witch's cauldron. We're gonna turn that down a little, yeah? Ah! Maybe we'll turn it down a little more. We're gonna give her a taste. Burn my tongue. Mmm, so good. This is the biggest thing of olive oil in the world. A couple tablespoons in the bottom of a nice big skillet. We're gonna turn her on medium-high heat as well. I should wash this, but I won't. So the marinara sauce can go for a really long time. I like to cover it just for a bit in the beginning so that it holds on to some of its moisture. And then I'll uncover it a little later. Like, I'll just keep it uncovered now. So, our oil's nice and movey now. So we're gonna start with our meatballs. You don't wanna overcrowd the pan because that's gonna make for uneven cooking. And there we go. And that's starting to sizzle a little bit. This is 6, so we'll do 7 to a thing. So these guys are sizzling away. They look really good. They found their little homes. They're being very cute. The trick with meatballs, this isn't a trick, this is just how you cook meatballs. You're gonna wanna brown it completely. Basically cook it all the way through in a separate pan before you throw it into your marinara. The marinara will cook it a little bit because there's a ton of heat in this sauce. It's not enough to just cook through a whole ball of meat that could make somebody sick. So we're gonna do our first flip. I like to do it just totally the opposite side. Some people go like cute little like 90-degree turns. I'm just gonna flip it completely over. And there we go, we got some really pretty browning. Really didn't think it would look that pretty. I'm so happy. We're gonna flip her over. This is kind of where some oil is gonna pop onto your skin. And that's fine. You're not gonna die. Try to be careful if you can. So that was about 2 to 3 minutes on the first side. I'm gonna give it just about that much time on this side too. Maybe even a little more to try to get through a little more into the meatball. Then we're gonna throw our meatballs in the sauce to kind of finish cooking. But this is going great so far. We're doing a little homemade. We're doing a little homemade moment. We're gonna check these guys. Pretty. Now we're gonna move on to the side. So what my dad used to do, he would always have like a test meatball just to like see how it was cooking and whatever. And that was always my favorite part of making it because you got to finally taste it and try it. It's still a very fun little part that I like to make a part of my time. How hot do you think this is? It's very hot. We're gonna scrape down the sides because this is reducing quite a bit. No cooking shows ever show you how friggin' messy it gets. So my oven looks like garbage, but the sauce is gonna taste great. So at this point at your 4th flip, you're kind of just gonna wanna find any parts that are still uncooked, like very clearly. Ow, so much oil. So we'll do a rotation here. Cool. Bing, bang, boom. We're also gonna keep this oil when we do our next batch. I know it's looking kind of a little rough, but it's gonna be okay. I promise. The plate that has Texas on it. My mom's from Texas. This isn't all about my dead dad, baby. Mama's still kicking, and I like to remember her with this plate. Great, so we actually wanted to cook a little bit further through. So we're gonna reduce the heat even more so we don't burn the outside, but we still get the inside cooking. So for right now, we're just letting this fry up. We're gonna toss it in there in a little bit, and then that's it. But now we just have to wait for that to happen. Perfect, so this is cooked just the right amount in the middle. I'm gonna turn the heat off on this, just because we don't need it anymore. And also I wanna stop getting burned by hot oil. You're just gonna take your meatballs one by one and plop them in. Boop, boop. When we're putting them in here, it's not only imparting flavor into the sauce, but it's also helping the meatballs cook a little further, making the meatballs a little juicier. Everything about this is a good idea, and I would not suggest doing it any other way, because that's not how my dad did it, so I can't change it. It changes everything else. One weird trick that my dad taught me is when you have a lot of excess oil, you don't want to put it down your drain because it'll clog everything up. What you're gonna wanna do is actually pour it down the toilet while the toilet's flushing. So gross and probably not true. Run into my bathroom with this giant thing of oil and like be flushing my toilet. That's also how I run. How do you guys get rid of excess oil? I would love to know. Leave that comment below. Okay, so now we're just gonna let this guy sit. Doesn't really matter how long, honestly. You can't, at this point you can't f it up. I would usually let it just sit steeping in the sauce, maybe an hour. Just make your pasta. We're gonna do that really quick. Hello again. I've missed you. You guys should know how to cook some f***ing pasta, but I will tell you, you guys should know how to cook pasta, so I'm really not gonna tell you that much about it. You want to season the living out of your water because it's just gonna be better. It's gonna make your pasta taste good, which will help your sauce to taste better. I'm just gonna can't wait to clean that up later. We're done. Pasta's done. We got some cheese. We got some put on top of it. Oh my God, this is exactly something my dad would have been so mad at me about. If I had like gone and scooped meatballs and brought them over here, he'd be like, you f***ing kidding me? He would have been so mad. So let's do it that way. I'm just gonna get 2 right now because I'm gonna have more off camera later and I don't want you guys to think I'm that gross yet. And just ladle these little babies on. I also don't like a lot of sauce on my pasta, so that's pretty, Oh my God, the steam. I'm gonna put some cheese on while it's nice and warm. I also love a little bit of parsley on top, mostly just like for color and stuff, but I do like parsley. It's not gonna hurt anybody. We're gonna try my dad's classic spaghetti meatballs, but we fixed the worst part. Thank you very much. We have some real pasta underneath. I divide my meatball into 4, and then I get like a very realistic amount of pasta. I'm not really a spoon queen. I love to spoon, but like not with my pasta. That's really good. Oh, it's spicy for sure. Use that spice if you want. This is really good. I'm really stoked. I just had lunch and I'm gonna finish this. Thank you guys so much. Oh my God, so gross. Just thank you guys so much for joining. It's such a solid recipe. Please make this for somebody you love. Tell someone you love them today. Don't be a dick. Make somebody some food. And thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe so you can watch more Dead Dad's Kitchen. Cry with me, laugh with me, eat with me. I'm stoked. Thank you for watching. See, and you're done. And now you don't have any oil left.